My name is Helma Lutz. As Ulla Müller just introduced me, I'm also one of the editors of the series, and it is my incredible pleasure and honor today to talk to Kathy Davis about the latest book that we have in our series, the book on dancing tango. Kathy Davis, I think I do not have to introduce her. She's one of the most well-known gender studies authors in Europe and also in the US. She has published on many subjects, on the body, on intersectionality, on conversation theory, and so forth. Today we will talk about the book, but also, and I think first and foremost, about, well, you as a writer, Kathy, and what has the book been doing with you, to you. You wrote this book, it first appeared in English 5 years ago, now it's there in German. And you wrote that dancing tango has become an important part of your life. So how has the writing of the book changed you and your writing process?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for organizing this conversation, and I feel very honored to have my book in your series. I'm very impressed by what you've already, the books that are already in the series, so I feel like I'm in very good company here. Well, I'm not sure the book changed my life so much, but I would say it changed me completely in terms of how I write books. I mean, I've never written a book like this before, and it really changed me, I think, as a scholar in all kinds of ways. So maybe I could just say something about that. I mean, first of all, it took me a long time to actually write this book. A lot of people, I've been a tango dancer for many years and a very passionate tango dancer. So many of my friends and colleagues have been telling me for years that I should write a book about tango. It's right down my alley. But I was in fact extremely hesitant to do that because I was worried that if I wrote a book as a critical feminist sociologist, that it might ruin my passion for dancing tango. So I was very much afraid that I would be out on the dance floor, looking critically at all these dancers and not able to enjoy myself. On the other hand, I was worried that as a passionate tango dancer, I wouldn't be able to be a critical feminist sociologist, that I would, what sociologists call going native. I would be blinded to the things that I needed to be looking at critically. So I really put it off for a long time. But once I started writing it, I discovered, first of all, that it was probably an advantage. It was that it was an advantage for writing the book that I was a tango dancer myself, partly because it was easier for me to talk to other dancers. I knew what they were talking about, and they knew that I knew what they were talking about. So that was one thing, but I also think I was able to use my experiences as a tango dancer in the analysis itself, and I did that. So when I encountered things that were troubling or puzzling, I was able to incorporate them in the analysis. So it's a very personal book. It's not just an ethnography of tango as a global dance culture, but it's also a personal story. But okay, it changed me in other ways as well. Um, First of all, you can't you can't write about tango in the way you write about other subjects. It's an embodied practice. It's all about the body. So I found that I had to learn new ways of writing. I had to learn ways to bring the body into my writing, which I hadn't done before in quite that way. So just to give you an example, anyone who dances tango knows how important the close embrace is. But how do you explain to someone who's never danced tango what that is and what all the fuss is about? So I had to find a way to sort of pull my reader into the close embrace, and I used my senses in a way that I hadn't done before. So I thought about what does it smell like when you're in a close embrace? What do you hear? What do you feel? So I found that I was writing the body into my text. The other way that it was different is that even though tango dancers almost invariably wanted to talk to me, it was a book where I had no trouble at all finding informants. In fact, I used to go to tango salons and people would come up to me and say, would you like to interview me? Because they wanted to tell their story. So that was very easy. But when it actually got down to doing the interview, they had a lot of problems finding words to talk about what they felt. So these were people for whom tango was, maybe the most important thing in their life. They did it all the time. They spent a lot of time and effort doing it, and so it was really important for them. But they said, I know how it feels, but I don't know how to talk about it. So I used the interviews, or we used the interviews in an interactive way to find a new language to talk about these bodily sensations, or this incredible passion that people can feel for tango.
Thank you very much. And I think maybe you can add something. The methodology, right, is quite important here. You were just saying this. So given what you have experienced, so how would you say has this book also changed your methodology or your thinking about methods in your research?
Well, one way it's changed my thinking, or I would say confirmed what I already suspected, and that is that methodology is a very creative enterprise. I'm not someone who believes in getting a methodology out of a methodology book. I think that that research projects are very idiosyncratic, and you need to be open and creative and kind of developing your methodology as you go along. So that's certainly something that I learned from this book. And as part of the, I don't know whether as part of the methodology is the way I think about theory, or the way what I learned about theorizing. I mean, we all have our theoretical perspectives that we bring in to the work that we do, and I certainly had them too when I started this work. And for example, I was coming from a post-colonial feminist standpoint, and I was thinking about this global dance culture as a place where a lot of dancers from the global north are coming to Buenos Aires, which is the mecca of tango, to dance with real Argentinians and learn the authentic tango. And And I saw all kinds of interactions, of course, on the dance floor, which involved exoticization, where you could see the economic disparities between people from the north and people from the south. So, I mean, all of that was going on there. But at the same time, when I started talking to local dancers, they were really telling me things that were quite different, or even antithetical to what I had expected. I mean, for example, they were telling me that they needed the tourists not just for economic reasons, but for excitement. And they were telling me all kinds of things about, they were describing the tourists in ways that were also exoticizing. So it made me think of exoticization as more of a two-way process, not just something coming from the north to the south. And maybe the most important thing of all was that I was really looking for power disparities between the Argentinian dancers and the dancers coming from other places. And what I saw in the salons in Buenos Aires is that the local dancers also mobilize the tourists to negotiate the power relations that are going on in their salon. So that was also a much more complicated story than what I had been prepared to discover. So what I learned from all of this is that you really need to be prepared to interrogate your own theories based on what you discover when you're doing the field work.
Yeah, thanks a lot. You just gave me another keyword, namely the Mecca of tango, Buenos Aires. And given the fact that we are dealing with the pandemic at the moment, maybe you can say something about what's happening in Buenos Aires, because so many people in Argentina are depending on that kind of work. So this whole work area is somehow touched by the fact that the pandemic has changed, and that tango probably is not that. No, I don't know, but if people are still dancing tango in Argentina, for instance.
Well, the pandemic has affected all tango dancers. I mean, tango is when the protocols are relaxed, tango will be the last to come back, obviously, because there's so much close social contact. So the tango culture all over the world has more or less ground to a stop, to a halt, with the exception of clandestine tango salons. In Buenos Aires, however, it's more dramatic. First of all, they're in a total lockdown, so their situation is different anyway. But the people who the organizers of the tango salons had a much more precarious position. They were dependent on tango for their livelihood, unlike tango organizers, salon organizers in Europe, who do it kind of as a hobby. In Argentina, this is something that they do as their livelihood. So this is really very dramatic for them. But one of the things that interested me, and here I could compare it a bit to Europe, the reactions in the tango scene here, and what I see happening in Buenos Aires is that there's a lot of effort being made to maintain the community. So many of the organizers have regular contacts with the visitors of their salons, and they're encouraging them, to stay at home, to stay safe, We'll be back. Don't worry. So I think that's very interesting how they're trying to maintain this community in the face of what is really quite devastating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my last question is actually that I wanted to ask, but I think it's very hard to say that now. You have written a column about queer dancing and social activism. So maybe the last question will now be, tell us a bit about this, and well, hopefully this is going to happen next year or a year and a half from now again.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, Queer Tango is it's kind of a political project. Also Queer Tango dancers have really tried to revolutionize tango, get rid of the roles, the gender roles in tango, and kind of change the dance culture. So that's already very interesting. So it's already a political project. But what I think is really exciting is that many queer tango dancers, particularly in Buenos Aires, but not only, use queer tango or have connected with other social movements. So you often find social movements, for example, against violence against women or femicidio, the murder of women. And you'll have queer tango dancers doing flash mobs along with these demonstrations, or queer tango organizes demonstrations and manifestations with the elderly or with people with disabilities. So I think it's that using this kind of close embrace and people coming together physically, not just for political reasons, but also actually physically connecting. So it makes for a new kind of activism, and I think that's very, very exciting. It's also an activism that uses tango to cross different kinds of boundaries or differences, or so to make a kind of inclusive and also joyful activism.
Okay, thank you very much, Kathy. I'm sure your big book will be read by lots and lots of people. It's just a thing that many, many people have been waiting for. So thanks, and we'll see each other again. Bye.
Bye.